Hello there and welcome to Scientific Serenity. Everything you hear here is carefully researched and prepared for you. Now, take a deep breath. Let the darkness become gentle. Before we begin, you may notice your body starting to relax. A gentle yawn may arrive. Your breathing may slow. As this story unfolds, your mind will drift naturally towards sleep. By the middle of this journey, rest will come quietly, and when you wake, you may feel calmer, because tonight, you fell asleep through science and learned something most people never will. If you see me as someone from your own family who researches and prepares this knowledge for you, subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment would truly mean a lot to me. And let the story begin. Above you, far above you, the clouds of Venus glow in the perpetual twilight. They are beautiful, these clouds, if you could see them from a distance. Sulfuric acid droplets catch the sunlight and scatter it back into space, giving the planet its brilliant white appearance, the third brightest object in our sky after the sun and the moon. From orbit, Venus looks like a perfect pearl suspended in the blackness, serene and luminous, a jewel among planets. But you are not looking at Venus from a distance. You are falling into it. The descent begins gently. The outer atmosphere is thin, tenuous, barely more than the vacuum of space itself. Your senses register nothing but the silent drift of stars and the distant, indifferent face of the planet growing larger beneath you. But as you fall, the air begins to change. It thickens. It presses against you with increasing insistence. A subtle hand on your chest that grows heavier with each passing kilometer. The stars begin to fade not because night is falling, but because the atmosphere itself is becoming visible. A faint, milky haze that softens the sharp edges of space and replaces them with something softer, something more intimate, something that feels uncomfortably like being buried alive. 90 kilometers above the surface, you enter the upper cloud deck. This is the realm of beauty, the layer that gives Venus its pearlescent glow. The clouds here are thin, wispy, composed of sulfuric acid droplets so fine they feel more like fog than rain. They swirl around you in lazy currents, catching what little sunlight still penetrates this deep and scattering it into a diffuse, golden glow. The light is warm, almost comforting, like the light of a late autumn afternoon filtered through high cirrus clouds. But the comfort is an illusion. The temperature here is already above freezing, far warmer than the space you left behind, and it will only get hotter. The pressure is building too slowly but inexorably, a weight that settles on your shoulders and chest and makes each breath a conscious effort. 60 kilometers. You pass through the upper cloud deck and into the middle clouds. The golden light deepens to amber, then to copper, then to a reddish brown that feels less like light and more like the memory of light. The clouds thicken around you, no longer wispy but dense, opaque. A churning mass of acid droplets that limits your vision to a few meters in any direction. You are alone now, truly alone, suspended in a murky fog that muffles sound and distorts perception. The only evidence that you are still moving is the steady increase in pressure, the growing weight that now feels less like a hand on your chest and more like the entire ocean pressing down upon you. 50 kilometers. The temperature passes 100 degrees Celsius. Water, if there were any water here, would have boiled away long ago. But there is no water on Venus. There is only carbon dioxide, 96% carbon dioxide, a blanket of the stuff nearly 100 kilometers thick, trapping heat with an efficiency that makes Earth's greenhouse effect look like a gentle warmth. The pressure at this altitude is already greater than the pressure on the surface of Earth. You are experiencing forces that would crush a submarine, that would collapse the lungs of any unprotected human, that would twist metal and shatter bone. And still you descend. 40 kilometers. The middle cloud deck gives way to the lower clouds. The reddish-brown light darkens further, moving through the spectrum toward black, toward the absolute absence of illumination. You can no longer see your own hands in front of your face, not because it is dark in the conventional sense, but because the atmosphere has become so dense that light simply cannot penetrate it. Photons that enter this murk are scattered and absorbed and scattered again until they lose all direction, all purpose, all meaning. They become a uniform background glow, a dim, directionless radiance that illuminates nothing and reveals only the terrifying truth that you are blind. 30 kilometers. The temperature passes 250 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to melt lead. Hot enough to cook organic matter to ash in seconds. And still the pressure mounts, doubling and redoubling, a weight so immense that you can feel it in your bones, in your teeth, in the very marrow of your being. You are no longer falling through an atmosphere. You are falling through an ocean of supercritical carbon dioxide, compressed by its own weight into a fluid state that defies easy categorization. It is not quite gas and not quite liquid, but something in between, something that flows like air but presses like water, something that surrounds you completely and utterly and without mercy. 20 kilometers. The last traces of light die. What little illumination survived the upper clouds is now completely extinguished, absorbed by the vast thickness of atmosphere above you. You are in darkness now, not the soft darkness of a moonless night, but the absolute primordial darkness of the deep ocean. The darkness of caves that have never known sunlight, the darkness of a world where the concept of light has no meaning. This darkness has weight. This darkness has presence. This darkness presses against your eyes like a physical force, and your brain, desperate for any sensory input, begins to invent things that are not there. Faint glimmers, moving shapes, the ghostly afterimages of a light you have not seen for hours. 10 kilometers. The temperature passes 400 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to glow faintly in the infrared though you cannot see it. Hot enough to melt zinc, to soften glass, to turn solid rock into flowing lava. The pressure is now more than 60 times that of Earth's surface, a force so immense that it would crush any void, any bubble, any pocket of empty space into nothingness. Your body, if it were here, would not simply be killed, it would be obliterated, compressed into a volume smaller than your fist, its constituent atoms forced so close together that they would cease to be you and become something else entirely, a dense, hot lump of matter indistinguishable from the dense, hot matter all around you. 5 kilometers. The last layer of clouds gives way to clear air, if air is the right word for this supercritical fluid that envelopes you. For the first time in hours, you can see, not with your eyes, which would be instantly destroyed by the heat and pressure and acid, but with the mind's eye, with the imagination that allows you to witness what no human has ever witnessed and lived to describe. Below you, dimly visible in the faint infrared glow of its own heat, the surface of Venus emerges from the darkness. It is a landscape of endless plains, broken by ancient volcanoes and twisted by tectonic forces that have shaped this world for billions of years. The rocks are dark, basalts and andesites, the same kinds of rocks that form the ocean floors of Earth, but they glow with a faint, ruddy heat, like embers in a dying fire. The sky above them is black, completely black, except for the occasional flicker of lightning that illuminates the clouds for a split second before vanishing into the eternal night. You touch down. The surface welcomes you with a pressure that would crush you instantly, a temperature that would cook you in microseconds, an atmosphere that would dissolve you into its component elements. But you are not here in body. You are here in imagination, in the safe darkness of your room, in the warm embrace of your bed, in the quiet hours when the mind is free to wander where the body cannot follow. The ground beneath you is solid, or as solid as anything can be on a world where the temperature approaches the melting point of rock. It groans and shifts with tectonic forces, sending vibrations through your feet that you feel as much as hear, deep, subsonic pulses that speak of a world still alive, still active, still shaping itself in the darkness. Above you, invisible but unmistakable, 90 kilometers of atmosphere pressed down with the weight of an ocean. The air itself, if air is the right word, flows around you like a slow viscous fluid, its molecules so densely packed that they behave more like a liquid than a gas. You could swim through this atmosphere if you could survive it. You could feel it flowing past you like water, thick and warm and heavy, carrying with it the acrid taste of sulfur and the faint, metallic tang of vaporized rock. The sound is unlike anything on Earth. It is not the silence of the void, for there is too much matter here for true silence. It is a deep, continuous rumble, the sound of convection on a planetary scale, of heat rising from the core and escaping through the crust, of atmosphere circulating in patterns that have persisted for billions of years. Beneath this rumble, you can hear the creak and groan of rock under immense pressure, the slow, grinding movement of tectonic plates, the distant hiss of volcanic gases escaping through fissures in the crust. And above it all, or rather within it all, there is the sound of the wind, not the gentle breeze of Earth, but a thick, heavy flow of supercritical fluid that pushes against you with the force of a solid object, that carries particles of dust and ash and condensed metal across the plains, that sculpts the landscape with impatience that human minds can barely comprehend. This is the entry into crushing darkness. This is the first lesson of Venus. That pressure is not merely a number, not merely a statistic to be quoted in textbooks and forgotten. Pressure is a force. Pressure is a weight. Pressure is the entire mass of an atmosphere pressing down upon you, and on Venus, that mass is greater than any human can experience and survive. Consider the numbers, for they tell a story that words alone cannot convey. On the surface of Earth, at sea level, the atmosphere presses down with a force of 14.7 pounds per square inch. This is enough to support a column of mercury 760 millimeters high, enough to fill your lungs with air when you inhale, enough to keep the water in your veins from boiling at body temperature. It is a pressure so familiar that you never notice it, so constant that you forget it exists. On the surface of Venus, the pressure is 1,350 pounds per square inch, 92 times greater than on Earth. This is the pressure you would feel if you were submerged in the ocean at a depth of nearly 1 kilometer. This is the pressure that would crush a submarine like a tin can, that would collapse the lungs of any diver, that would turn air into something that behaves more like water than like the gas you breathe. At this pressure, carbon dioxide, the same gas that you exhale with every breath, becomes a supercritical fluid. It is no longer a gas, not quite a liquid, but something in between. It has the density of a liquid and the viscosity of a gas. It flows around objects like water but penetrates every pore like air. It carries heat with terrifying efficiency, so that the temperature on the surface of Venus is uniform across the entire planet. Day side and night side, equator and poles, all within a few degrees of 462 degrees Celsius. The atmosphere itself acts as a gigantic heat reservoir, smoothing out all differences, creating a world of absolute thermal uniformity. This is the world you have entered. This is the darkness that surrounds you. This is the pressure that holds you in its grip. And yet, even in this hellish landscape, there is a kind of beauty. The rocks, heated to the point of incandescence, glow with a faint, ruddy light that illuminates the immediate surroundings in shades of red and orange and deep, smoky black. The sky, if you could call it that, is a uniform darkness, unbroken by stars or moon or any celestial body, for the atmosphere is too thick to allow any light from outside to penetrate. You are in a closed system, a world unto itself, isolated from the rest of the universe by 90 kilometers of supercritical carbon dioxide. The volcanoes that dot the landscape are ancient now, most of them, their slopes worn smooth by eons of chemical erosion. But some are still active, still venting gases from the deep interior, still adding to the already crushing atmosphere. Mont Mons, the highest volcano on Venus, rises 8 kilometers above the surrounding plains, its summit reaching into the lower cloud decks where the temperature is merely hot rather than absolutely hellish. From its peak, if you could stand there, you might see the clouds swirling above you, might catch a glimpse of the faint, diffused light that filters down from the upper atmosphere. But you are not on the peak. You are on the plains, in the darkness, in the pressure, in the heat that would kill you in an instant if you were really there. The minutes pass. The pressure does not relent. The heat does not diminish. The darkness does not lift. This is the eternal state of Venus, a world locked in a runaway greenhouse effect that began billions of years ago and will continue until the sun itself expires. There is no cycle of day and night here, no seasons, no variation. There is only the constant, crushing weight of the atmosphere and the constant, searing heat of the surface and the constant, absolute darkness of a world that has forgotten what light looks like. You stand on this surface in your imagination and you feel the weight pressing down. You feel the heat radiating through your body. You feel the darkness pressing against your eyes. And slowly, gradually, you begin to understand what it means to be truly alone. Not alone in the sense of being isolated from other humans, but alone in the sense of being in a place where no human can ever go, where no human will ever go, where the very conditions of existence are incompatible with everything that makes you human. This is the entry into crushing darkness. This is the first chapter of the story of Venus, and it is only the beginning. The darkness deepens. The pressure increases, though you are already at the maximum, already at the surface, already experiencing everything this world has to offer. But the sensation of pressure does not diminish with familiarity. It grows, becomes more acute, more present, more impossible to ignore. You feel it in every cell of your imaginary body, in every breath you do not take, in every movement you cannot make. You are pinned to this world by the weight of its atmosphere, held in place by forces that would destroy you in reality but in imagination only hold you, only press you, only remind you of your own fragility. Above you, invisible in the darkness, the clouds continue their eternal dance. The sulfuric acid droplets form and fall and evaporate before they reach the surface, creating a cycle of precipitation that never touches the ground. The lightning flashes in the upper atmosphere, illuminating the clouds for split seconds before darkness reclaims them. The winds blow at hundreds of kilometers per hour, carrying the thick, heavy atmosphere around the planet in patterns that have persisted for eons. But you cannot see any of this. You can only feel the pressure, only sense the heat, only know that above you, far above you, there is a world of clouds and light and movement that you will never reach. You are at the bottom of the ocean of air, at the deepest point, in the most inaccessible place in the solar system. And yet, even here there is a kind of peace. The pressure, once you stop fighting it, becomes a kind of embrace. The heat, once you stop resisting it, becomes a kind of warmth. The darkness, once you stop fearing it, becomes a kind of rest. This is the paradox of Venus, that the most hellish place in the solar system can also be, in imagination, a place of profound calm. Because here, in this crushing darkness, there is nothing you can do. There is no action you can take, no decision you can make, no problem you can solve. You are simply present, simply existing, simply experiencing the reality of this world without any need to change it or escape it or improve it. The pressure holds you. The heat warms you. The darkness embraces you. This is the entry into crushing darkness. This is the beginning of your journey through the world that should not exist, the planet that should have been Earth's twin but became something else entirely. In the hours and days to come, you will explore this world further. You will walk through acid rains that never reach the ground. You will climb mountains dusted with metallic snow. You will fly through hurricanes that circle the entire planet. But for now there is only this: the surface, the pressure, the darkness, the heat. Feel the weight. Feel the warmth. Feel the absolute, complete, utter darkness that surrounds you and holds you and will not let you go. This is Venus. This is the crushing darkness. This is where your journey begins. Above you, the clouds of Venus churn in perpetual fury. You cannot see them from where you stand on the surface, buried under 90 kilometers of supercritical carbon dioxide, but you know they are there. You can feel them in the pressure that never relents, in the heat that never cools, in the faint, distant rumble of lightning that penetrates even this deep. The clouds are always there, always moving, always preparing their next assault on a surface they will never reach. Look up. Not with your eyes, for there is nothing to see, but with your mind. Visualize the layers of atmosphere stacked above you like the pages of an impossibly thick book, each one adding its weight to the crushing pressure that holds you in place. At the very top, where the clouds meet the vacuum of space, the temperature is a manageable 30 degrees Celsius. Spaceship designers dream of floating cities at this altitude, habitats suspended in the perpetual twilight where humans could live in relative comfort, protected from the hell below by only a thin skin of metal and the infinite patience of engineering. But you are not at the top. You are at the bottom. And between you and that temperate paradise lies every layer of this world's terrible atmosphere. The middle cloud deck, where temperatures climb above 100 degrees and sulfuric acid droplets swirl in densities that would blind any observer. The lower cloud deck, where the pressure exceeds anything on Earth and the darkness becomes absolute. And finally, the clear air beneath the clouds, if clear is the right word for a medium so dense that it flows like liquid and carries heat like a furnace. In this clear air, something strange is happening. Something that has no equivalent on Earth, no analog in any terrestrial experience. It begins high above you in the lower cloud deck, where conditions are just right for the formation of sulfuric acid rain. The process is simple in theory, complex in execution. High in the atmosphere, ultraviolet radiation from the sun strikes molecules of sulfur dioxide, volcanic gas that has been venting into the atmosphere for billions of years. This radiation breaks the molecules apart, freeing their atoms to recombine with other substances. Water vapor, scarce but not absent, provides the necessary hydrogen and oxygen. The result is sulfuric acid, H2SO4, one of the most corrosive substances known to chemistry. This acid condenses onto tiny particles in the clouds, forming droplets that grow and coalesce until they become too heavy to remain suspended. Then they fall. They fall through the middle cloud deck, through the lower cloud deck, through the clear air beneath, accelerating as they go, gaining speed and momentum with every kilometer of their descent. By the time they reach the lower atmosphere, they are moving fast enough to kill, fast enough to penetrate, fast enough to do real damage to anything unfortunate enough to be in their path. But they never reach you. Watch one droplet as it falls. It begins its journey in the perpetual twilight of the upper clouds, a tiny sphere of concentrated acid no larger than a raindrop on Earth. It is beautiful in its own terrible way, catching what little light exists and refracting it into a faint, prismatic glow. As it falls, it grows, accreting more acid from the saturated air around it, becoming larger and heavier and more deadly with each passing second. It passes through the middle cloud deck, where the temperature rises and the pressure increases. The droplet should be boiling at these temperatures. Sulfuric acid boils at around 300 degrees Celsius. But the pressure is so immense that boiling is suppressed, delayed, held in check by the sheer weight of the atmosphere above. The droplet continues to fall, its surface rippling with the strain of forces that would tear it apart in any normal environment. It passes through the lower cloud deck, into the absolute darkness where no light has shone for billions of years. The droplet is invisible now, detectable only by the faint disturbance it creates in the dense atmosphere, a tiny wake of displaced molecules that spreads and dissipates behind it. It is falling faster now, much faster, accelerated by gravity and unimpeded by any significant wind resistance in this supercritical fluid. It enters the clear air beneath the clouds, the region you now occupy in your imagination. The temperature here is over 450 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead, hot enough to soften steel, hot enough to do things to sulfuric acid that have no name in any human language. And that is when it happens. The droplet does not hit the ground. It does not splash against a rock or sizzle on the surface or flow into a river of molten metal. It simply stops existing. Not stops falling, stops existing. One moment it is a droplet of concentrated sulfuric acid, a coherent sphere of corrosive liquid falling through the atmosphere. The next moment it is nothing, or rather it is vapor. It has evaporated, transformed from liquid to gas in the blink of an eye, its constituent molecules dispersing into the already dense atmosphere to begin their long journey back to the clouds where they will reform and fall again. This is the evaporating catastrophe. This is the acid rain that never reaches the ground. This is one of the strangest phenomena in all of planetary science. A cycle of precipitation and evaporation that has been running continuously for hundreds of millions of years without ever once touching the surface it was designed to destroy. The phenomenon has a name on Earth: Virga. In terrestrial deserts, rain sometimes evaporates before it reaches the ground, creating curtains of precipitation that hang in the air like ghosts, taunting the parched earth below with moisture that will never arrive. But on Earth, Virga is rare, local, temporary. On Venus, it is universal, permanent, absolute. Every drop of acid that forms in the clouds evaporates before it reaches the surface. Every single one. For billions of years. Without exception. The implications are staggering. Imagine a world where rain has never touched the ground, where the cycle of erosion and deposition that shapes every terrestrial landscape is completely absent, where the only forces that modify the surface are volcanic and tectonic and the slow, inexorable creep of heat. The mountains of Venus are not worn down by water or wind or ice. They are worn down only by the gradual flow of rock under immense temperature, a process so slow that a mountain range might last billions of years without significant change. And yet, even though the acid never reaches the ground, its presence is felt everywhere. The lower atmosphere of Venus is saturated with sulfuric acid vapor, a permanent, invisible fog that permeates every cubic meter of air. This fog does not condense, does not precipitate, does not do any of the things that fog does on Earth. It simply exists, a chemical background radiation that fills the space between the clouds and the ground with the constant potential for destruction. The concentration is not high enough to be immediately lethal to hypothetical observers. Not that any observer could survive the temperature and pressure long enough to worry about acid exposure. But it is high enough to be noticeable, high enough to catch in your throat if you had a throat to catch it in, high enough to sting your eyes if you had eyes to sting. It is the ghost of rain, the memory of precipitation, the permanent reminder that above you, always above you, the clouds are doing their terrible work. Now imagine standing in this fog. You cannot see it, for there is no light to reveal its presence. You cannot smell it, for your nose would be destroyed before it could register any sensation. But you can feel it in a way. You can feel the faint chemical burn on your skin, the subtle irritation of tissues that have no business being exposed to concentrated acid. You can feel the weight of it in the air, the sense that the atmosphere itself is somehow hostile, somehow aware of your presence and eager to do you harm. This is the first lesson of Venusian acid rain, that the most dangerous things are often the ones you cannot see. The surface of Venus is hellish in obvious ways: the heat, the pressure, the darkness. But beneath these obvious horrors lies a more subtle one, a chemical assault that never stops, never relents, never gives you a moment's peace. The acid is everywhere. The acid is always. The acid is eternal. Above you, thousands of droplets are falling at this very moment. Each one is a tiny catastrophe in the making, a concentrated dose of chemical destruction aimed at a surface it will never reach. Each one will evaporate before impact, adding its vapor to the already saturated atmosphere, completing a cycle that has no beginning and no end. The droplets form, they fall, they evaporate, they rise again to form anew. Round and round, forever and ever, a perpetual motion machine powered by the sun and sustained by the chemistry of a world gone wrong. The sound of this process is unlike anything on Earth. It is not the gentle patter of rain on a roof, not the soothing rhythm of a summer shower. It is a continuous, high-pitched hiss, the sound of liquid turning to gas in an environment that cannot tolerate its existence. Imagine a million tea kettles whistling at once, a billion drops of water sizzling on a billion hot skillets, the combined fury of phase transition happening on a planetary scale. That is the sound of Venusian acid rain. That is the music of this world. But the hiss is not the only sound. Beneath it, deeper and more ominous, is another sound. The rumble of convection, the roar of rising air, the thunder of atmospheric circulation on a scale that dwarfs anything on Earth. The same heat that evaporates the acid droplets also drives the winds that carry their vapor back to the clouds. It is a closed loop, a perfect system, a machine with no moving parts that has been running since before humans existed and will continue running until the sun itself dies. Listen to it. Close your eyes, your real eyes, the ones in your head. not the imaginary ones you have been using to see this world, and listen to the sound of Venus. What do you hear? If you listen carefully, if you filter out the hiss and the rumble and the distant crackle of lightning, you might hear something else. Something softer. Something almost gentle. It is the sound of billions of droplets falling. Each one makes its own tiny whisper as it moves through the dense atmosphere, a whisper too quiet to hear individually but collectively audible as a kind of background sigh, a continuous exhalation that never pauses, never varies, never ends. The droplets fall and sigh, fall and sigh, fall and sigh, an infinite chorus of chemical destruction singing its eternal song. And then they evaporate. The sigh becomes a hiss, becomes a scream, becomes nothing, and the droplets are gone, their molecules dispersing into the fog to begin their long journey back to the clouds. The cycle continues. The song never ends. Now imagine walking through this landscape. The ground beneath your feet is hot, so hot that it glows faintly in the infrared, a ruddy warmth that you feel through the soles of your imaginary boots. The air around you is thick, viscous, pressing against you with the weight of an ocean. And the fog, the invisible, omnipresent fog of sulfuric acid vapor, surrounds you completely, penetrates every fold of your clothing, every pore of your skin, every breath you do not take. You are alone here, more alone than any human has ever been. The nearest living thing is millions of kilometers away, huddled on a blue planet that orbits a star you cannot see. There is no life on Venus, not even microbial life, not even the hardiest extremophile that laughs at heat and pressure and acid. The conditions here are too extreme, too hostile, too utterly incompatible with the chemistry of life as we know it. You are the only consciousness in this world, and you are not really here. But in your imagination you are here. And in your imagination the fog is real. It coats everything with an invisible film, a layer of potential corrosion that never quite manifests as actual damage. The rocks are immune to it, having been baked and compressed for billions of years until they are as resistant to acid as anything can be. But you are not immune. You are soft, organic, vulnerable. The fog knows this. The fog waits. This waiting is perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the Venusian atmosphere. The acid is there, always there, but it never acts. It never precipitates, never concentrates, never does the damage it is capable of doing. It simply hangs in the air, a permanent threat that never quite becomes a reality, a sword of Damocles suspended over a world that has long since learned to ignore it. The droplets continue to fall. The hiss continues to sound. The fog continues to wait. And you continue to stand in the midst of it all, a fragile observer in a world that was not made for observers, a consciousness adrift in an ocean of chemical indifference. Above you, the clouds continue their eternal churning. They are beautiful in their own terrible way, these clouds, if you could see them from above. From orbit, they glow with the light of 1,000 sunsets, a pearlescent veil that hides the horror beneath. But from below, from where you stand, they are invisible, present only as a weight, a pressure, a constant reminder that you are at the bottom of something vast and indifferent. The acid rain that falls from these clouds is the messenger of their indifference. It carries their hostility down toward the surface, not to deliver it, but to display it, to demonstrate that even the attempt at destruction is futile, that even the most concentrated chemical assault is no match for the conditions that prevail here. The rain evaporates because the atmosphere demands it. The droplets disappear because the heat requires it. The cycle continues because the planet has decreed it. This is the evaporating catastrophe. This is the acid rain that never reaches the ground. This is the second chapter of the story of Venus, and it is more disturbing than the first because it involves not just passive hostility but active, cyclical, eternal destruction. Destruction that never quite destroys, violence that never quite connects, threat that never quite becomes reality. The hours pass. The hiss continues. The fog persists. The droplets fall and evaporate, fall and evaporate, fall and evaporate, an infinite loop of chemical futility that has been running for longer than any human can comprehend. You stand in the midst of it, imaginary witness to a process that requires no witness, that continues whether anyone observes it or not, that will continue long after you have returned to your bed and your dreams and your ordinary life. And slowly, gradually, you begin to understand that this is the true horror of Venus. Not the heat, not the pressure, not the darkness, though these are terrible enough. The true horror is the indifference. The absolute, complete, utter indifference of this world to anything that might observe it, experience it, suffer through it. The acid falls because it must fall. The fog persists because it must persist. The droplets evaporate because they must evaporate. There is no purpose, no meaning, no intention behind any of it. There is only chemistry, only physics, only the blind, mechanical operation of forces that have no consciousness, no awareness, no care. You are the only consciousness here. You are the only awareness. You are the only being capable of caring about what happens in this place, and you are not really here. The irony is absolute. The loneliness is complete. And yet, even in this absolute loneliness, there is a kind of peace. Because if nothing cares about you, then nothing judges you. If nothing has intention toward you, then nothing can hurt you in any meaningful way. The acid cannot harm you because you are not here. The heat cannot burn you because you are not here. The pressure cannot crush you because you are not here. You are safe in your bed, in your room, in your world, imagining horrors that can never touch you. This is the gift of Venus. This is what this world offers to those who visit it in imagination. The opportunity to confront absolute hostility without any real danger, to experience complete indifference without any real consequence, to walk through hell without getting burned. So walk. Walk through the fog. Walk through the hiss. Walk through the endless, silent fall of droplets that never reach the ground. Feel the weight of the atmosphere pressing down. Feel the heat radiating from the rocks. Feel the acid waiting, always waiting for an opportunity that will never come. And as you walk, listen. Listen to the hiss of evaporating rain. Listen to the rumble of convection in the clouds above. Listen to the faint, distant crackle of lightning in the upper atmosphere. These are the sounds of Venus. These are the sounds of a world that has no need for you, no use for you, no awareness of you. These are the sounds of absolute, complete, eternal indifference. The fog thickens as you walk, though you cannot see it. You feel it as a pressure on your skin, a weight in your lungs, a presence in the air that was not there before. The concentration of acid vapor is increasing, though you have no way of measuring it, no way of knowing whether you are approaching some threshold beyond which even imagination cannot go. The hiss grows louder, more insistent, more urgent. The droplets fall faster, evaporate more quickly, cycle through their existence at an accelerated pace. Something is changing. Something in the atmosphere, in the circulation patterns, in the eternal machine of Venusian weather, is shifting. The clouds above are thickening, churning more violently, generating more droplets than before. The fog below is responding, becoming denser, more saturated, more present. And you are in the middle of it, walking through a transition that has no name, experiencing a change that has no meaning except the meaning you give it. This is the nature of Venus, constant change within absolute stasis. The droplets form and fall and evaporate, but the overall pattern never varies. The clouds churn and swirl and generate lightning, but the overall structure never alters. The atmosphere circulates and convects and redistributes heat, but the overall temperature never fluctuates. Venus is a world of dynamic equilibrium, of motion without progress, of change without evolution. It has been this way for billions of years and will remain this way for billions more. And you, standing in the midst of it, are the only witness to this eternal stasis. You are the only consciousness that has ever registered the fact that the droplets fall and evaporate, that the fog persists and waits, that the clouds churn and generate. You are the only being that has ever cared about any of this, and you are not even really here. The thought is dizzying. The implications are vertiginous. You are imagining a world that does not imagine you back, a reality that has no need for your observation, a place that would continue exactly as it is whether you existed or not. This is the ultimate loneliness, the final isolation, the absolute solitude of consciousness in a universe that does not care. But it is also, paradoxically, a kind of freedom. Because if the universe does not care, then you are free to care or not care as you choose. If reality has no meaning, then you are free to find meaning where you will. If Venus is indifferent to your presence, then you are free to experience it without expectation, without judgment, without the burden of being observed in return. So experience it. Feel the fog. Hear the hiss. Sense the fall of droplets that never reach the ground. Let the indifference of this world wash over you and through you and become part of you. For a few moments, in the safe darkness of your room, you are on Venus. You are in the acid rain that never touches the ground. You are in the evaporating catastrophe that has been running since before your ancestors crawled out of the primordial soup. And when you have had enough, when the weight of this world becomes too much to bear, you can simply open your eyes. You can return to your bed, your room, your ordinary life. The fog will vanish. The hiss will fade. The droplets will continue their eternal fall without you, indifferent to your absence as they were indifferent to your presence. But for now, stay a little longer. Stay in the fog. Stay in the hiss. Stay in the evaporating catastrophe that defines this layer of Venusian hell. Let the acid rain that never reaches the ground wash over your imagination and cleanse it of everything except this moment, this place, this experience. Above you the clouds churn. Around you the fog waits. Below you the rocks glow with ancient heat. And through it all, the droplets fall and evaporate, fall and evaporate, fall and evaporate, an infinite cycle of destruction that never quite destroys, an eternal catastrophe that never quite arrives. This is Venus. This is the acid rain. This is the evaporating catastrophe that has no beginning and no end. And you are here. You are always here, in imagination, in dream, in the safe darkness of your own mind. The fog cannot hurt you. The heat cannot burn you. The pressure cannot crush you. You are invulnerable here, immune to everything except the weight of your own thoughts. So think about the droplets. Think about their endless fall. Think about the moment of evaporation, when liquid becomes gas and the cycle begins anew. Think about the billions of years this process has continued, the billions more it will continue, the absolute indifference of it all. And then when you are ready, let go. Let the fog fade. Let the hiss quiet. Let the droplets fall without you. Return to your bed, your room, your world. Carry with you the memory of Venus, the experience of its acid rain, the knowledge that somewhere out there in the darkness, a world exists where catastrophe is eternal and nothing ever changes. The droplets continue to fall. The fog continues to wait. The clouds continue to churn. And you, safe in your bed, continue to breathe, continue to exist, continue to be the consciousness that visited this world and returned to tell the tale. This is the gift of Venus. This is the acid rain. This is the evaporating catastrophe that defines the second layer of this world's terrible beauty. Rest now. The droplets will fall without you. The fog will wait without you. The cycle will continue without you. And in the morning when you wake, Venus will still be there, distant, indifferent, eternal, waiting for your imagination to return. The mountains of Venus rise from the darkness like the bones of a dead world. They are ancient beyond comprehension, these peaks, their slopes worn smooth by eons of chemical erosion and their summits reaching toward clouds that have never given them rain. Maxwell Montes is the tallest among them, a massive uplift that towers 11 kilometers above the surrounding plains. Higher than Everest, higher than anything on Earth, a giant among giants in a world of extremes. From the surface you cannot see them. The darkness is too complete, the atmosphere too dense, the fog of sulfuric acid vapor too pervasive. But you can feel them. You can sense their presence in the way the ground slopes beneath your feet, in the subtle shift of pressure as you climb, in the faint vibrations that travel through the rock from tectonic forces deep below. The mountains are there, waiting in the darkness, and you are climbing toward them. The ascent is slow not because the slope is steep, though it is, but because the pressure changes as you rise. With every meter of elevation, the weight of the atmosphere above you decreases, fractionally, imperceptibly but measurably. The difference between the base of Maxwell Montes and its summit is nearly 11 kilometers of vertical relief, and in that span the pressure drops from 92 times Earth's surface pressure to a mere 45 times. Still crushing, still lethal, still far beyond anything a human could survive, but less. Noticeably, significantly less. And with this decrease in pressure comes a decrease in temperature. Not much. Venus's atmosphere is so efficient at distributing heat that the temperature varies by only a few degrees across the entire planet, but enough. Enough to make a difference. Enough to change the rules of chemistry. Enough to create something that has no equivalent anywhere else in the solar system. You climb. The ground beneath your feet is rock. Basalt, mostly the same dark volcanic rock that forms the ocean floors of Earth. But as you climb, the rock begins to change. It becomes darker, glossier, coated with something that was not present on the plains below. At first you think it might be frost, but that is impossible. Frost requires water, and there is no water here. Then you think it might be ash, but ash does not glitter like this, does not catch what little light exists and reflect it back in tiny metallic glints. You reach down and touch it. Your imaginary fingers brush against the surface, and you feel something strange. A fine dust, soft as powder, but with the weight of metal. It clings to your skin, cool to the touch, cool, on a world where everything else is hot enough to melt lead. The sensation is disorienting, impossible, a violation of every expectation you have developed during your time on this planet. Coolness. Actual, perceptible coolness, in a place where the ambient temperature is 450 degrees Celsius. You look closer. In the faint, ruddy glow of the infrared that illuminates this world, you can see that the dust is not uniform. It is composed of tiny crystals, each one catching the light and scattering it in a different direction, creating a subtle shimmer that moves as you move. The crystals are gray, but with a metallic luster that makes them look almost silver, almost white, almost like something that belongs on a mountaintop on Earth rather than on the slopes of a Venusian peak. This is metallic snow. This is the frozen breath of a world that should not be able to freeze anything. This is one of the strangest phenomena in all of planetary science, and you are walking through it. The snow forms through a process that has no name in any human language, but which we can approximate with the terms we have. High on the slopes of Maxwell Montes and the other great peaks of Venus, the temperature drops just enough, from 460 degrees to 430 or 40, to allow certain metals to condense out of the atmosphere. These metals, primarily lead sulfide and bismuth sulfide, exist as vapor in the lower atmosphere, carried aloft by convection currents that circulate continuously around the planet. When this vapor reaches the cooler altitudes of the mountain peaks, it does what vapor does when it cools. It condenses, but it does not condense into liquid. The temperatures are still far too high for that. It condenses directly from vapor to solid, a process called deposition, skipping the liquid phase entirely. The metal atoms, carried on currents of supercritical carbon dioxide, suddenly find themselves in an environment where they can no longer remain gaseous. They latch onto any available surface, the rocks, the dust, each other, and form crystals. Tiny crystals at first, invisible to any observer, but growing over time into the fine metallic powder that now coats these ancient slopes. The result is a landscape that looks more like a winter morning on Earth than anything that should exist on Venus. The peaks of Maxwell Montes are dusted with what appears to be frost, a gray-white coating that shimmers in the faint light and crunches underfoot like fresh snow. But this snow is not made of water. It is made of lead. It is made of bismuth. It is made of compounds that on Earth are mined from deep underground, extracted at great expense and processed with considerable effort. Here they simply fall from the sky, coating the mountains in a layer of metallic frost that has been accumulating for millions of years. Walk through it. Feel it beneath your imaginary feet. The crunch is different from the crunch of terrestrial snow. Sharper, more crystalline, with a higher pitch that speaks of metal rather than ice. Each step leaves a footprint that glitters with freshly exposed crystals, a trail of disturbed frost that marks your passage through this impossible landscape. Behind you, the footprints will remain for millions of years, preserved by the absence of wind and water and any other force that might erase them. Your passage is eternal here, inscribed on the slopes of Maxwell Montes in metallic snow. The science behind this phenomenon is as beautiful as the phenomenon itself. The two primary minerals involved are galena and bismuthinite, lead sulfide and bismuth sulfide. On Earth, these are minerals, mined for their metal content and processed in smelters at enormous expense. On Venus, they are atmospheric components, carried aloft by the same convection that distributes heat around the planet. The lower atmosphere, with its crushing pressure and searing temperature, acts as a gigantic chemical reactor, breaking down rocks and releasing their constituent elements into the air. Sulfur, lead, bismuth, and countless other elements circulate continuously, rising and falling, reacting and recombining, creating and destroying compounds in an endless chemical dance. When this metal-laden vapor reaches the high altitudes of the mountain peaks, the lower pressure and slightly cooler temperature force it to condense. The galena and bismuthinite molecules, no longer able to remain as gas, attach themselves to any available surface. They build up over time, layer by layer, crystal by crystal, until the entire mountainside is coated in a thick deposit of metallic frost. The thickness varies with elevation. At the very summit, where temperatures are lowest and pressures are lowest, the snow is deepest, meters thick in some places, accumulated over billions of years into actual deposits that would be worth fortunes on Earth. Lower down, where temperatures rise and pressures increase, the snow thins out, becoming a dusting rather than a blanket, a shimmer rather than a coat. And below a certain altitude, the snow disappears entirely, the temperature too high even for metallic frost to survive, the vapor remaining gaseous until it cycles back to the peaks. This creates a snow line just as on Earth. But on Earth, the snow line is determined by temperature and moisture. On Venus, it is determined by chemistry and pressure. Below a certain elevation, It is simply too hot for galena and bismuthinite to exist as solids. They must remain vapor, circulating in the atmosphere until they rise again to the peaks where they can finally rest. The mountains of Venus are not just mountains. They are cold traps, capturing metallic vapor from the entire atmosphere and concentrating it into deposits that grow thicker with every passing eon. Now imagine standing at the summit. You have climbed through the metallic snow, through the glittering frost, through the impossible coolness of this high-altitude zone. Your imaginary lungs labor in the thin, well, not thin but less thick, atmosphere, and your imaginary body feels the strange sensation of being in a place that should not exist. The summit is flat, or nearly so, a broad plateau of ancient rock coated in metallic crystals that crunch beneath your feet with every step. Look out across the landscape. Below you, far below you, the plains of Venus stretch into darkness, invisible but present, their heat radiating upward in waves that you can almost see. Above you, the clouds churn in their eternal dance, their lower decks visible now as a gray-brown ceiling that obscures everything beyond. And all around you, as far as you can see in any direction, the metallic snow covers everything, turning this mountain peak into a winter wonderland from hell. The crystals catch what little light exists and throw it back at you in a million tiny glints. They are not white, these crystals. Nothing on Venus is white, but they are lighter than the rock beneath, creating a contrast that is almost beautiful, almost serene, almost peaceful. If you did not know what you were looking at, you might almost think you were on Earth, standing on some high peak after a fresh snowfall, watching the clouds roll in below. But you do know. You know that this snow is made of lead. You know that the air you are not breathing would kill you in an instant. You know that the temperature, though cooler than the plains, is still hot enough to melt solder, still hot enough to cook any organic matter to ash. The peace is an illusion, the beauty a deception, the serenity a lie. This is Venus, and Venus does not do peace. And yet, even knowing all this, you cannot help but feel a kind of awe. The metallic snow is so unexpected, so contrary to everything you thought you knew about this world, that it forces you to reconsider your assumptions. Venus is not simply a uniform hell. It has layers, zones, microclimates. It has places where conditions are slightly less extreme, where chemistry takes unexpected turns, where beauty emerges from the most unlikely sources. The crystals beneath your feet are evidence of this complexity. Each one is a tiny work of art, a perfectly formed geometric solid created by the slow accretion of atoms onto a nucleation site. Under a microscope, they would be stunning, facets and angles and planes that catch light and scatter it in patterns too complex for any human to fully appreciate. But you have no microscope, only your imagination, and in your imagination you can see them clearly. Millions upon millions of tiny crystals, each one unique, each one perfect, each one a testament to the power of chemistry to create beauty even in hell. The wind picks up, not the gentle breeze of Earth, but a thick, heavy flow of supercritical fluid that pushes against you with the force of a solid object. It carries particles of metallic snow with it, tiny crystals that strike your face like sandblasting grit, each impact a sharp sting that reminds you of the hostility of this environment. The wind howls, or rather, it does not howl, for sound moves differently in this dense atmosphere, but it creates a pressure wave that you feel as much as hear, a deep, throbbing pulse that seems to come from everywhere at once. The metallic snow dances in the wind. The crystals lift from the surface, swirl in complex patterns, and settle again somewhere else, transported by forces that would barely move a leaf on Earth but here can shift significant amounts of material. The mountains of Venus are not static. They are dynamic, their surfaces constantly reshaped by the movement of this metallic frost. The snow drifts, accumulates, erodes, and accumulates again, creating patterns that change over timescales too long for human observation but too short for geological permanence. You watch the dance. The crystals swirl around you, catching the faint light and throwing it back in a million directions, creating a shimmering curtain of metallic brilliance that surrounds you completely. For a moment you forget where you are. For a moment you forget the heat and pressure and toxicity. For a moment you are simply present, watching the beauty of a world that has no business being beautiful. Then the moment passes and you remember. You remember that this beauty is lethal. You remember that this snow is made of heavy metals that would poison you instantly. You remember that this wind, which seems so gentle in its movement, is actually a flow of supercritical fluid moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour, dense enough to knock you off your feet, powerful enough to carry you away if you were not anchored by your imagination. But you are anchored. You are safe in your bed, in your room, in your world. The metallic snow cannot touch you. The wind cannot move you. The heat cannot burn you. You are invulnerable here, immune to everything except the weight of your own wonder. So wonder. Wonder at the complexity of this world. Wonder at the chemistry that produces metallic snow on mountain peaks that should be too hot for any solid. Wonder at the beauty that emerges from conditions that seem designed to destroy everything beautiful. The crystals continue their dance. The wind continues its flow. The mountain continues its eternal vigil over a landscape that has not changed in billions of years. And you continue to watch, a witness to phenomena that no human will ever witness in reality, a consciousness adrift in a sea of imagination. Below you, far below you, the plains of Venus glow with their own heat. The volcanoes that dot the landscape are quiet now, most of them their last eruptions millions of years in the past. But some are still active, still venting gases into the atmosphere, still adding to the chemical soup that creates the metallic snow. Mont Mons, the largest volcano on Venus, rises from the plains not far from where you stand, its massive bulk dominating the horizon even in the darkness. If you squint, you can just make out its summit, also dusted with metallic snow, also glittering in the faint light, also participating in this impossible dance. The snow on Mont Mons is different from the snow on Maxwell Montes. The composition varies with location, with altitude, with the specific chemistry of the volcanic gases that feed the atmosphere. On some peaks, the snow is rich in galena, heavy with lead, dark and dense. On others, bismuthinite predominates, lighter and brighter, almost silvery in the right light. And on still others, more exotic compounds form, tellurides and selenides and other rare minerals that exist only in trace amounts on Earth but here accumulate into significant deposits. The diversity is staggering. Venus, for all its uniformity of temperature and pressure, is chemically complex. The same processes that make it hellish also make it rich, creating a world of extraordinary mineral wealth that will never be mined, never be exploited, never be used by any intelligence. The metals accumulate in vain, piling up over billions of years for no purpose, no benefit, no observer. They simply exist, as beautiful and as pointless as anything in this universe. You bend down and scoop up a handful of the metallic snow. It is cold in your imaginary hand, cool at least compared to everything else on this world. The crystals trickle through your fingers like water, like sand, like any other granular material, but with the weight of metal. Each crystal is a tiny polyhedron, its facets catching the light and throwing it back in patterns that shift as the crystals move. You let them fall, watching as they join the rest of the snow on the surface, indistinguishable from the crystals that were already there. This is the nature of metallic snow. It is ephemeral and eternal at the same time. Each crystal forms, exists for a time, and then is buried by later crystals or eroded by the wind, or carried away to some other part of the mountain. But the snow itself persists, a permanent feature of these high-altitude zones, maintained by the continuous deposition of metallic vapor from the atmosphere. The individual crystals come and go, but the snow endures, a constant presence in a world of change. The wind shifts and a new pattern emerges in the drifting snow. The crystals arrange themselves into ripples like sand dunes on Earth, but smaller, sharper, more defined. These ripples migrate slowly across the surface, responding to the prevailing winds, creating patterns that shift over timescales measured in years and decades. If you could return to this spot 1,000 years from now, you would find the ripples in different places, different orientations, different shapes. But the snow itself would still be here, still falling, still drifting, still dancing. Time on Venus moves differently. Without seasons, without days, without any of the cycles that structure time on Earth, the planet exists in a kind of temporal stasis. Things change, but slowly, imperceptibly, over scales that dwarf human experience. The mountains erode at rates so slow that they might as well not be eroding at all. The volcanoes erupt at intervals so long that no human civilization has ever witnessed one. The metallic snow falls continuously, accumulating at rates so slow that a human lifetime would see no measurable increase. And yet the snow accumulates. Over millions of years, the deposits grow thick enough to be measured in meters rather than millimeters. Over billions of years, they become actual geological formations, layers of metallic minerals that would be world-class or deposits on Earth. The mountains of Venus are not just mountains. They are mines waiting to be worked, treasure waiting to be claimed, wealth waiting to be spent. But no one will ever claim them. No one will ever work them. No one will ever spend them. They will remain forever as they are, beautiful and useless, accumulating in vain. This thought carries its own kind of peace. The metallic snow does not need to be useful. It does not need to be mined or processed or turned into something else. It can simply exist as it has existed for billions of years, as it will exist for billions more. Its beauty is its own justification, its existence its own purpose. The snow falls because the chemistry demands it, and that is enough. You stand on the summit of Maxwell Montes, surrounded by metallic snow, and you feel the weight of this thought. The crystals glitter at your feet. The wind carries others past your face. The mountains stretch away into darkness, each one coated in its own deposit of metallic frost. And you, the only witness to all of this, are simply present, simply observing, simply existing in this moment that contains billions of years of history. This is the gift of Venus. Not just horror, not just hostility, but beauty. Beauty in unexpected places. Beauty in the dance of lead and bismuth. Beauty in the metallic snow that falls on mountain peaks that should be too hot for any solid. Beauty in the chemistry that creates crystals from vapor, that turns atmospheric gases into geological formations, that transforms the simplest elements into works of art. The wind dies down. The snow settles. The crystals come to rest on the surface, forming a smooth, even coat that stretches in all directions as far as you can see. The mountain is quiet now, the only sound the faint hiss of the atmosphere and the distant rumble of convection in the clouds above. You are alone here, more alone than anywhere else on this planet, surrounded by beauty that has no awareness of your presence, no need for your observation, no interest in your existence. But you are here anyway. You are here because you chose to be here, because your imagination brought you here, because the human mind is capable of visiting places that the human body can never reach. You are the witness that Venus never asked for, the observer that this world does not need, the consciousness that gives meaning to phenomena that have no meaning of their own. The metallic snow waits. It will always wait, accumulating through the eons, building deposits that will never be mined, creating beauty that will never be seen. But tonight it is seen. Tonight it has a witness. Tonight the dance of lead and bismuth has an audience of one. You turn and begin your descent. The snow crunches beneath your feet, each step leaving a footprint that will last for millions of years. Behind you, the summit fades into darkness, its metallic coat glittering faintly in the infrared glow of a world that never sees the sun. Ahead of you, the lower slopes wait, their temperatures rising, their snow thinning, their rocks returning to the bare basalt of the plains. You are leaving the zone of metallic snow, but you carry its memory with you. You carry the image of crystals glittering in the darkness, the sensation of cool metal trickling through your fingers, the knowledge that somewhere on this hellish world, beauty exists in forms that no human will ever touch. The descent continues. The pressure increases, the temperature rises, the familiar hostility of Venus reasserts itself. But something has changed. The metallic snow has given you a new perspective, a new understanding of what this world is and what it can be. Venus is not just a uniform hell. It is a place of complexity, of nuance, of unexpected beauty. It is a world that rewards those who look closely, who climb high, who are willing to see beyond the obvious. And you have seen. You have climbed to the heights and witnessed the metallic snow. You have stood on the summit of Maxwell Montes and watched the dance of lead and bismuth. You have experienced one of the strangest phenomena in the solar system, and you have returned to tell the tale. The plains stretch before you, dark and hot and crushing. The clouds churn above, invisible but present. And behind you, far behind you now, the mountains rise into the darkness, their peaks coated in metallic snow that will never melt, never change, never stop being beautiful. This is Venus. This is the dance of lead and bismuth. This is the metallic snow that falls on mountains that should not exist. And you were there. You witnessed it. You walked through it. You felt it beneath your feet and in your hands. The memory is yours now, as permanent as the footprints you left behind, as eternal as the crystals that glitter in the darkness. Rest now. The mountains will wait. The snow will continue to fall. And when you are ready, you can return, to climb again, to witness again, to experience again the strange beauty of a world that has no business being beautiful. Above you, the sky is moving. Not moving as clouds move on Earth, drifting slowly across the blue, driven by gentle winds that change with the seasons. Moving as a single unified mass, as if the entire atmosphere were a solid object rotating around the planet at a speed that defies comprehension. The clouds of Venus do not drift, they race. They scream. They circle the planet in 4 Earth days, while the solid world beneath them takes 243 days to complete a single rotation. The atmosphere moves 60 times faster than the ground. The sky outruns the world. This is superrotation. This is the endless gray storm that has been raging for billions of years. This is one of the great mysteries of planetary science. A phenomenon that has no equivalent anywhere else in the solar system. A perpetual motion machine powered by the sun and sustained by the unique conditions of this hellish world. You cannot see it from where you stand on the surface. The darkness is too complete, the atmosphere too dense, the clouds too far above. But you can feel it. You can feel it in the pressure that never relents, in the heat that never cools, in the faint, distant rumble that penetrates even this deep. The storm is there, always there, circling the planet with a fury that has no beginning and no end. But now you will rise to meet it. The ascent begins slowly. You leave the surface behind, climbing through the dense, supercritical carbon dioxide that fills the lower atmosphere. The pressure decreases with every meter, slowly at first, then faster as you gain altitude. The temperature drops too, fractionally, imperceptibly, but enough to notice if you are paying attention. The darkness remains absolute. You are still far below the clouds, still buried under kilometers of atmosphere, still blind to everything except the faint infrared glow of the rocks beneath you. 10 kilometers. 20. 30. The pressure is now half what it was on the surface, but still crushing, still lethal, still far beyond anything a human could survive. The temperature has dropped to a mere 400 degrees, still hot enough to melt lead, still hot enough to kill any organic life in seconds. The darkness persists, but it is changing now, becoming less absolute, more diffuse. Light is beginning to penetrate, though you cannot yet call it light. It is more like the memory of light, a faint reddish glow that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. 40 kilometers. You enter the lower cloud deck. Suddenly everything changes. The darkness lifts, not completely but enough. Enough to see. Enough to orient yourself. Enough to understand for the first time where you are and what you are facing. The clouds around you are not clouds as you know them. They are not white and fluffy, not the cumulus towers of a summer afternoon. They are gray, deep, ominous, churning gray, and they move with a speed that is immediately disorienting. The air itself seems alive, flowing past you at hundreds of kilometers per hour, carrying with it droplets of sulfuric acid and particles of who knows what, all of it moving in the same direction, all of it part of the same vast global current. This is the storm. This is the superrotation. This is the endless gray fury that defines the middle atmosphere of Venus. You are caught in it now, carried along by winds that would tear any terrestrial structure apart, that would strip flesh from bone in seconds, that would reduce anything made by human hands to scattered debris. But you are not here in body. You are here in imagination, and imagination can withstand anything. So let the wind take you. Let it carry you around the planet at speeds that would kill you instantly if you were really here. Let it show you what it means to be part of something larger than yourself. The clouds stream past in endless procession. They are stratified, layered, organized into bands that circle the planet parallel to the equator. Some bands are darker than others, their gray deepening almost to black where the concentration of sulfuric acid is highest. Others are lighter, almost silver, where the droplets are smaller and more widely dispersed. The bands shift and flow and interact, creating patterns that change from moment to moment, from hour to hour, from day to day. If days had any meaning on a world where the sun never penetrates, and through it all the wind never stops. It does not gust, does not slacken, does not vary in any measurable way. It simply blows, continuously, eternally, at speeds that would be hurricanes on Earth, but here are merely the background condition of existence. 400 kilometers per hour. 500. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower, but always moving, always circling, always completing its 4-day lap around a world that turns so slowly it might as well be standing still. The cause of this superrotation is one of the great mysteries of Venus. Scientists have proposed theories, built models, run simulations, but no one knows for certain why the atmosphere moves so much faster than the ground. The leading explanation involves the sun. Sunlight heats the dayside atmosphere, causing it to expand and rise. The rising air flows toward the night side, where it cools and sinks. This circulation, combined with the slow rotation of the planet, creates a global pattern that gradually accelerates the atmosphere. Over billions of years, this acceleration has built up to the speeds you are now experiencing. But the details remain unclear. The models never quite match the observations. The simulations always fall short. Venus keeps its secret, as it has kept so many secrets for so long, and the storm continues to rage without explanation, without purpose, without any need for human understanding. You ride the current. The clouds stream past, endless and unchanging, a gray river that circles the planet without ever reaching a destination. There is no land ahead, no shore to reach, no harbor to seek. The storm simply goes on forever, as it has gone on for billions of years, as it will go on for billions more. You are a passenger on a journey that has no end, carried by forces that have no intention, moving toward a horizon that never approaches. The sound of this storm is unlike anything on Earth. It is not the roar of a hurricane, not the howl of a blizzard, not the shriek of a tornado. It is deeper, more pervasive, more fundamental. It is the sound of an entire atmosphere in motion, the combined voice of trillions of tons of gas flowing at hundreds of kilometers per hour. It is a bass note so low that you feel it more than hear it, a vibration that penetrates your entire body and shakes you to the core. Beneath this bass note, there are other sounds: the hiss of acid droplets moving through the air, the crackle of lightning discharges that flicker constantly in the upper clouds, the rumble of convection cells that rise and fall like the breathing of some vast planetary beast. Listen to it. Let it fill you. Let it become the background of your consciousness, the constant against which everything else is measured. This is the sound of Venus. This is the sound of superrotation. This is the sound of an endless gray storm that has no beginning and no end. The lightning flickers around you. On Earth, lightning is occasional, rare, a dramatic event that punctuates the ordinary. On Venus, lightning is continuous, constant, a permanent feature of the atmosphere. The discharges occur in the clouds above you, below you, all around you, their light illuminating the grayness for split seconds before fading back into the eternal twilight. Each flash reveals the clouds in stark relief, their textures, their structures, their endless churning motion, before darkness reclaims them. The lightning is caused by the same convection that drives the superrotation. As air rises and falls, as droplets form and collide, as particles rub against each other in the constant motion, static electricity builds up to enormous levels. When the charge becomes too great to contain, it discharges in a bolt of lightning that can stretch for hundreds of kilometers. On Earth, such bolts would be extraordinary, record-breaking, worthy of scientific study. On Venus, they are ordinary, commonplace, happening thousands of times every second across the planet. The light from these discharges is not white as on Earth. It is tinged with orange, with red, with the colors of sulfur and acid and the other chemicals that fill this atmosphere. It flickers constantly, creating a strobe effect that makes the streaming clouds appear to move in jerks and starts, like an old film projected too slowly. The effect is disorienting, hypnotic, almost hallucinatory. You could watch it for hours, for days, for years, and never tire of its endless variation. But you cannot watch for years. You are here only for a moment, a brief visit to a world that does not welcome visitors. So watch while you can. Watch the lightning flicker. Watch the clouds stream past. Watch the endless gray storm do what it has always done and will always do. The altitude changes as you ride the current. You rise and fall with the convection cells, carried upward by rising air and downward by sinking currents. The experience is like being on a roller coaster designed by a madman. No tracks, no cars, no safety restraints, just the raw power of the atmosphere moving you where it will. Up you go into regions where the clouds thin and the lightning intensifies, where the gray lightens almost to white and the temperature drops to a mere 100 degrees. Then down again into the deeper gray where the acid droplets are thickest and the pressure builds toward levels that would crush any structure. The convection cells are vast, hundreds of kilometers across, their boundaries marked by shifts in cloud color and lightning frequency. They rise from the depths of the atmosphere, carry their cargo of heat and chemicals toward the upper clouds, then sink back down to begin the cycle anew. They have been doing this for billions of years, these cells, circulating heat from the interior to the exterior, from the depths to the heights, from the darkness to the twilight and back again. You pass through the boundary between two cells. The change is abrupt, startling. One moment you are rising, carried by warm air that flows upward from the depths. The next moment you are falling, caught in a downdraft that plunges you toward the lower clouds. The transition is marked by turbulence, by chaotic eddies that spin off from the main flow, by lightning that flickers more intensely than anywhere else. For a few moments, you are in chaos, surrounded by forces that have no pattern, no predictability, no mercy. Then the chaos passes and you are falling steadily, carried by the new current toward destinations unknown. This is the nature of superrotation. Not a single uniform flow, but a complex system of interacting currents, each with its own character, its own behavior, its own role in the global circulation. The atmosphere of Venus is not a simple machine. It is a living system, dynamic and complex, forever changing within the bounds of its eternal stasis. The patterns shift, the currents vary, the lightning flickers, but the overall structure remains. An atmosphere that circles the planet 60 times faster than the ground, driven by forces that science is still struggling to understand. You fall for what feels like hours. The pressure increases, the temperature rises, the clouds darken around you. The lightning becomes less frequent, the gray deepens to black, the sense of being buried returns. You are descending toward the lower cloud deck, toward the region where the atmosphere transitions from the relatively thin upper levels to the crushing depths below. The storm is still there, still raging, but it is becoming distant now, muffled by the increasing density of the air. Then, without warning, you stop falling. You are caught in another updraft, rising again toward the heights. The cycle repeats, as it has repeated billions of times before, as it will repeat billions of times again. Up and down, carried by convection cells that have no awareness of your presence, no interest in your passage, no need for your observation. This is the rhythm of Venus. This is the pulse of its atmosphere. This is the endless gray storm, rising and falling, circling and churning, forever in motion and forever the same. You surrender to it. You let the currents take you where they will, up and down, around and around, a passive passenger on a journey that has no destination. The lightning flickers, the clouds stream past, the bass note of the wind vibrates through your entire being. You are part of the storm now, as much a part of it as any droplet of acid, any particle of dust, any molecule of carbon dioxide. You have become one with the superrotation, a tiny consciousness adrift in an ocean of moving air. The experience is disorienting, but it is also liberating. To be part of something so vast, so powerful, so eternal, is to be freed from the small concerns of individual existence. Your problems, your worries, your fears, they mean nothing here. They are swept away by winds that have been blowing for billions of years, dissolved in acid that has been falling since before your ancestors crawled out of the sea. You are nothing, and in being nothing you are free. The storm continues. It does not know you are here. It does not care. It simply does what it has always done, moving air from place to place, distributing heat around the planet, maintaining the conditions that make Venus what it is. You are an accident, a temporary intrusion, a brief flicker of consciousness in a world that has no consciousness of its own. But for this moment you are here, and that is enough. Rise again. Fall again. Circle the planet at speeds that would kill you if you were really here. Watch the lightning flicker and the clouds stream past. Feel the bass note of the wind vibrating in your bones. This is Venus. This is superrotation. This is the endless gray storm that defines this world's middle atmosphere. And now, as you ride the currents, consider what this storm means. It means that Venus is not a dead world. It is alive with motion, with energy, with the constant circulation of its atmosphere. It means that the planet is dynamic, active, forever changing within the bounds of its eternal stasis. It means that there is more to this world than the crushing darkness of its surface, more than the acid fog of its lower atmosphere, more than the metallic snow of its highest peaks. The storm connects everything. It carries heat from the depths to the heights. It distributes chemicals from one region to another. It shapes the clouds and generates the lightning and maintains the conditions that make all of Venus what it is. Without the storm, without the superrotation, Venus would be a different world. Perhaps more like Earth, perhaps more like Mars, perhaps something else entirely. But the storm exists, and because it exists, Venus is Venus. You ride the current for what feels like hours, though time has lost all meaning here. The lightning flickers, the clouds stream past, the bass note vibrates. Up and down, around and around, carried by forces that have no intention and no purpose. You are a speck in the vastness, a witness to phenomena that dwarf human comprehension, a consciousness adrift in an ocean of moving air. And then, slowly the storm begins to recede. Not because it is ending, it will never end, but because you are leaving it. You are descending deliberately now, choosing to return to the lower atmosphere, to the surface, to the familiar hell that you have come to know. The currents release you, letting you fall through the clouds, through the layers, through the increasing pressure and temperature, back toward the darkness below. The lightning fades. The clouds thin. The bass note of the wind grows distant, muffled by the thickening air. You are leaving the storm behind, returning to the world of crushing pressure and absolute darkness, the world where you began this journey. But you carry the memory of the storm with you, the gray clouds streaming past, the lightning flickering constantly, the feeling of being part of something vast and eternal. You descend through the lower cloud deck, through the clear air beneath, through the increasing pressure that now feels almost familiar. The darkness returns, complete and absolute, wrapping around you like a blanket. The heat returns, searing and relentless. The pressure returns, crushing and constant. You are back in the world you know, the world that has become almost comfortable in its hostility. But something has changed. The storm has left its mark on you. You understand now that Venus is not just a static hell, not just a uniform nightmare. It is dynamic, complex, alive with motion and energy. The superrotation that circles the planet is as much a part of its identity as the heat and pressure, as much a part of its character as the acid fog and metallic snow. You touch down on the surface. The rocks glow faintly in the infrared, the same rocks you left behind what feels like a lifetime ago. The pressure presses down, the heat radiates through you, the darkness surrounds you completely. But above you, far above you, the storm continues to rage. The clouds continue to stream past at hundreds of kilometers per hour. The lightning continues to flicker in the eternal twilight. The superrotation continues its endless circle around a world that turns so slowly it might as well be standing still. You are at the bottom again, at the deepest point, in the most inaccessible place in the solar system. But now you know what lies above. Now you know that the sky is moving, always moving, circling the planet with a fury that has no beginning and no end. The storm is there, waiting for anyone who dares to rise and meet it. The hours pass. The pressure does not relent. The heat does not diminish. The darkness does not lift. But the memory of the storm remains, a flicker of light and motion in the absolute blackness of this world. You carry it with you as you rest, as you wait, as you prepare for whatever comes next. Above you, the clouds continue their eternal race. The atmosphere circles the planet 60 times faster than the ground. The storm rages on, as it has for billions of years, as it will for billions more. It does not know you were there. It does not care. It simply does what it has always done, moving air from place to place, distributing heat, generating lightning, maintaining the conditions that make Venus what it is. But you were there. You rode the currents. You felt the wind. You witnessed the lightning and the clouds and the endless gray fury of the superrotation. The memory is yours now, as permanent as anything can be in this temporary existence of yours. Rest now. The storm will continue without you. The clouds will stream past, the lightning will flicker, the bass note of the wind will vibrate through the atmosphere. And when you are ready, you can rise again, to meet the storm once more, to ride the currents, to become part of the endless gray dance that defines the middle atmosphere of Venus. The storm waits, will always wait. It has been waiting for billions of years, and it will wait for billions more. Tonight you visited it. Tomorrow perhaps you will visit it again. But for now there is only this: the darkness, the pressure, the heat, and the memory of a storm that circles a world where the sky outruns the ground. This is Venus. This is superrotation. This is the endless gray storm that has no beginning and no end. Sleep now. The storm will keep its watch above you. The descent is over. You have fallen through 90 kilometers of crushing atmosphere, through acid fog and metallic snow and the endless gray storm. You have experienced the heat that melts lead and the pressure that would turn bone to powder. You have witnessed phenomena that have no names in any human language, that exist nowhere else in the solar system, that define this world as surely as oceans define Earth and cold defines Mars. And now, at last, you have reached the end. You stand on the slopes of Mont Mons, the largest volcano on Venus. Behind you, invisible in the darkness, the plains stretch away toward horizons you will never see. Above you, equally invisible, the clouds continue their eternal race. The lightning continues its constant flicker. The storm continues its endless rage. But here, on this ancient mountain, there is only silence. Not the silence of emptiness. There is no emptiness on Venus. The atmosphere still presses down with the weight of an ocean, still flows around you like a viscous fluid, still carries the heat and the acid and the memory of all that lies above. But it is a silent pressure now, a silent flow, a silent memory. The sounds that filled your journey, the hiss of evaporating rain, the crunch of metallic snow, the bass note of the superrotation, have faded into the background, become so constant that they are no longer noticeable. What remains is the deeper silence beneath them all, the silence of a world that has been waiting for billions of years for something that will never come. Mont Mons rises 8 kilometers above the surrounding plains, its massive bulk dominating this region of Venus as thoroughly as any mountain dominates any landscape on any planet. It is a shield volcano, broad and gently sloping, built up over eons by countless eruptions of basaltic lava. The lava that formed this mountain is ancient now, its flows solidified into dark rock that glows faintly in the infrared, radiating the heat it has absorbed from the atmosphere and from the interior far below. You stand on one of these flows, your imaginary feet resting on rock that was liquid millions of years ago. The surface is rough, clinkery, covered with the sharp fragments that form when lava cools and breaks apart. Walking here would be treacherous if you were really here, if your body could survive the conditions long enough to take a single step. But you are not really here, and so you walk without danger, your passage leaving no mark on rocks that have not been touched since they cooled. The mountain rises before you, its summit lost in darkness. You begin to climb. The slope is gentle, easy, the kind of incline that would be a pleasant hike on Earth under a warm sun and a blue sky. But here there is no sun, no sky, no warmth except the searing heat that radiates from every surface. The darkness is absolute, broken only by the faint, ruddy glow of the rocks themselves. A glow so dim that it illuminates nothing, reveals nothing, only reminds you that you are blind in a world without light. You climb for what feels like hours. The pressure changes as you gain altitude, decreasing slowly, imperceptibly, but measurably. The temperature changes too, dropping fractionally with every meter. By the time you reach the summit, you will have ascended 8 kilometers, and the conditions will be noticeably different from the plains below. Still lethal, still crushing, still far beyond anything a human could survive, but different. Always different. The slope steepens as you approach the summit. The lava flows here are younger, less weathered, their surfaces sharper and more dangerous. You pick your way carefully, avoiding the worst of the fragments, finding paths through the chaos of cooled rock. The faint glow of the rocks guides you, though guide is too strong a word. It is more like a presence, a constant reminder that you are not alone, that the mountain itself is alive with heat, that beneath your feet lies a vast reservoir of molten rock waiting for the moment when it will rise again. And then, suddenly you are there. The summit. The highest point on Mont Mons, the highest point in this region of Venus, one of the highest points on the entire planet. You stand on a small plateau, perhaps 100 meters across, surrounded by the darkness that never lifts. Below you, invisible but present, the mountain slopes away toward plains you cannot see. Above you, equally invisible, the clouds continue their eternal dance. And all around you, the silence. But it is not a dead silence. Beneath your feet, deep within the mountain, you can feel something. A vibration. A pulse. A slow, rhythmic movement that is almost, but not quite, like a heartbeat. It is too slow to be heard, too deep to be felt as ordinary vibration, but it is there, the signature of a world that is still alive, still active, still capable of change. Venus is not a dead planet. Its surface may be ancient, its volcanoes may be quiet, but the interior is still hot, still molten, still capable of generating the forces that built these mountains and flooded these plains with lava. The tectonic plates that shape Earth's surface do not exist here. Venus has a different kind of geology, a different style of planetary activity, but the heat is there, the energy is there, the potential for future eruptions is there. The pulse you feel is the evidence of this potential. It is the sound of magma moving deep within the crust, of convection cells circulating in the mantle, of heat escaping from the core after 4.5 billion years. It is the heartbeat of a world that is not quite dead, that will never be quite dead, that will continue to generate this pulse for billions of years to come. You stand on the summit and feel this pulse. It enters your imaginary body through your feet, travels up through your legs, your torso, your chest, until it seems to fill your entire being. The rhythm is slow, one beat every few seconds or every few minutes, but it is regular, consistent, eternal. It has been beating since before the first life appeared on Earth. It will continue beating long after the last life has vanished. It is the most ancient rhythm you will ever experience, the oldest pulse you will ever feel. This is the gift of Venus, not just horror, not just beauty, but time. Deep time. Geological time. The time of worlds, measured in millions and billions of years. The pulse beneath your feet is the same pulse that built these mountains, that flooded these plains, that shaped this world into what it is today. It is the pulse of creation itself, slowed to a tempo that human minds can barely comprehend. You kneel and place your hand on the rock. It is hot, so hot that it would burn through any material ever made by humans, would vaporize your hand in an instant if you were really here. But you are not really here, and so you feel only warmth, only the faint glow of heat that radiates from the surface. Beneath your hand, the rock is rough, ancient, covered with the patina of eons. It has not been touched since it cooled, not by any living thing, not by any consciousness. You are the first. You will be the last. The pulse continues. Beat, beat, beat. Each one a reminder that this world is alive, that beneath the crushing pressure and searing heat and absolute darkness, something moves. Something lives, if life is the right word for the slow convection of molten rock. Something endures, if endurance is the right word for the persistence of heat over billions of years. Something continues, if continuation is the right word for the endless cycling of energy from core to crust to atmosphere and back again. You stand and look out into the darkness. There is nothing to see, nothing but the faint glow of rocks and the deeper black of the sky. But you know what lies out there. You know that beyond this mountain, beyond this region, beyond this planet, there is a solar system full of wonders. There are worlds of ice and worlds of gas, worlds of desert and worlds of ocean, worlds that may harbor life and worlds that never will. And here, on this world of death, you have found something that feels almost like life. The pulse is not life. It is not consciousness, not awareness, not anything that biology would recognize. But it is movement, it is energy, it is the persistence of force over time. It is as close to life as a planet can get, the geological equivalent of breathing, the tectonic equivalent of heartbeat. It is the signature of a world that refuses to die, that will continue to pulse long after the last human has drawn their last breath. You turn from the darkness and begin your descent. The slope falls away beneath you, gentle at first, then steeper as you leave the summit plateau. The rocks glow faintly, guiding your way, though guide is still too strong a word. You move by feel, by memory, by the strange intuition that comes from spending time in this world. The pulse fades as you descend, becoming fainter, more distant, until it is barely perceptible, a memory rather than a sensation. By the time you reach the base of the mountain, the pulse is gone. The plains stretch before you, dark and hot and crushing, the same plains you left behind what feels like a lifetime ago. The pressure is back to its maximum, the heat back to its searing peak, the darkness back to its absolute completeness. You are at the bottom again, at the deepest point, in the most inaccessible place in the solar system. But something has changed. The summit has left its mark on you. You carry the memory of the pulse, the sensation of that ancient rhythm vibrating through your body. You carry the knowledge that beneath this hellish surface, beneath the crushing pressure and searing heat, something moves, something endures, something continues. You walk across the plains, aimless now, driven by no purpose except the desire to experience more of this world. The rocks pass beneath your feet, each one unique, each one ancient, each one carrying its own history of formation and cooling and erosion. Some are smooth, worn by eons of chemical weathering into shapes that are almost organic. Others are rough, sharp, their surfaces still bearing the marks of their volcanic origin. All of them glow faintly in the infrared, radiating the heat that permeates everything on this world. The hours pass. Time has no meaning here, but you mark it anyway, counting the beats of your imaginary heart, measuring the passage of moments that stretch into eternities. The darkness never lifts, the pressure never relents, the heat never cools. This is Venus, and Venus does not change. But you change. You feel yourself slowing, settling, becoming part of this world in a way that you have not been before. The hostility that once seemed so overwhelming now feels almost familiar, almost comfortable. The pressure that once crushed now holds you like an embrace. The heat that once burned now warms you like a blanket. The darkness that once terrified now soothes you like the deepest night. This is the final lesson of Venus, that even the most hostile environment can become familiar, that even the most extreme conditions can become ordinary, that even the most terrifying world can become, in time, a kind of home. Not a home you would choose, not a home you would recommend to others, but a home nonetheless. A place where you have spent time, where you have learned, where you have grown. You stop walking. There is no reason to stop, no destination to reach, no goal to achieve. But you stop anyway, simply because you can. Simply because stopping is as meaningful as moving in a world without direction. You stand on the dark plain, surrounded by the faint glow of rocks, and you wait. The pulse is gone now, too faint to feel at this distance. But you remember it. You remember the rhythm of the mountain, the heartbeat of the world. It is with you still, a memory that will not fade, a sensation that will not diminish. You carry it within you as you carry all the experiences of this journey, the acid fog, the metallic snow, the endless gray storm. They are part of you now, as permanent as anything can be in this temporary existence. The minutes pass. The hours pass. Time loses meaning entirely, becoming a continuous present, an eternal now. You are no longer counting, no longer measuring, no longer aware of the passage of moments. You simply are existing in this place, on this world, in this moment that contains all moments. Above you, far above you, the storm continues. The clouds race around the planet at hundreds of kilometers per hour. The lightning flickers constantly. The superrotation maintains its eternal cycle. The acid rain continues to fall and evaporate, an endless cycle that never touches the ground. The metallic snow continues to form on the highest peaks, accumulating through the eons into deposits that will never be mined. And beneath you, deep beneath you, the pulse continues. The magma moves in the mantle, the convection cells circulate, the heat escapes from the core. The planet lives in its own way, at its own pace, on its own terms. It does not need you to witness it. It does not need anyone to witness it. It simply is, as it has been for billions of years, as it will be for billions more. But you are here. You are witnessing. You are giving this world something it has never had before. An observer, a consciousness, a being capable of experiencing its wonders and terrors. The rocks do not care. The atmosphere does not care. The pulse does not care. But you care, and that caring gives meaning to your presence. gives purpose to your journey, gives value to your experience. You lie down on the dark plain. The rocks are hot beneath you, but you do not feel the heat. The pressure presses down, but you do not feel the weight. The darkness surrounds you, but you do not fear the night. You are beyond all that now, beyond sensation, beyond reaction, beyond the ordinary responses of a living being to an environment that should kill it instantly. You are becoming part of Venus. Not physically, you will never be physically here, but in imagination, in spirit, in the deep places of your mind where this journey has taken root. The planet is entering you as surely as you have entered it, its darkness becoming your darkness, its silence becoming your silence, its eternity becoming for a moment your own. The pulse returns. Not from beneath you this time, but from within you. The rhythm you felt on the mountain has become your own rhythm, beating in time with your imaginary heart, syncing with the flow of your imaginary blood. You are not separate from this world anymore. You are part of it, as much a part of it as any rock, any droplet, any crystal of metallic snow. This is the final destination. This is what you have been seeking since you began this journey. Not knowledge, not experience, not even understanding, but union. Union with a world that should be unapproachable, that should be inaccessible, that should be forever beyond the reach of any human consciousness. And yet here you are. Here you have always been, in a way. Here you will remain long after this journey ends. The darkness deepens, though that is impossible. The pressure increases, though you are already at the maximum. The heat rises, though you are already beyond the point where any measurement matters. Venus is giving you its all, holding nothing back, revealing itself to you in ways that no human has ever experienced and no human will ever experience again. You accept it all. You open yourself to the darkness, to the pressure, to the heat. You let them fill you, transform you, become you. You are no longer an observer on Venus. You are Venus itself. The crushing atmosphere, the searing surface, the ancient pulse, the eternal night. All of it flows through you and you flow through all of it. The moments pass. The hours pass. The days pass, though there are no days here. Time becomes irrelevant, meaningless, a human construct that has no place in this world. You exist outside of time now, in the eternal present that is the only time Venus knows. And slowly, gently, you begin to let go. Not of Venus, you will never fully let go of Venus, but of the need to hold on, the need to experience, the need to be present. You release your grip on consciousness, on awareness, on the self that has been observing all of this. You let yourself drift as the atmosphere drifts, as the clouds drift, as everything on this world drifts toward a destination that never arrives. The pulse slows. The darkness softens. The pressure eases. You are leaving now, withdrawing from this world as gently as you entered it, carrying with you all that you have experienced, all that you have learned, all that you have become. The surface of Venus recedes below you. The plains darken, then vanish. The mountains fade into the distance, their peaks still dusted with metallic snow. The clouds approach, then part, then close behind you. The storm rages on, indifferent to your departure as it was indifferent to your arrival. The lightning flickers, the wind howls, the superrotation continues its endless circle. You rise through the atmosphere, through the layers you descended so long ago. The pressure decreases, the temperature drops, the darkness lightens. The gray of the clouds gives way to the amber of the upper atmosphere. The amber gives way to the gold of the highest clouds. The gold gives way to the black of space. And then, suddenly, you are out. You are floating above Venus, looking down at the perfect pearl that has been your home for this journey. The clouds glow in the sunlight, beautiful and serene, hiding all the horrors that lie beneath. From here, Venus looks peaceful, tranquil, almost inviting. You would never know looking at this view what waits below. But you know about the crushing pressure and the searing heat. You know about the acid fog and the metallic snow. You know about the endless gray storm and the ancient pulse of volcanoes that will never erupt again. You know Venus as few will ever know it, as no one will ever know it in reality. The planet recedes as you drift away, becoming smaller, more distant, more like the other points of light that fill the sky. Soon it will be indistinguishable from the stars, just another bright object in the darkness. But you will remember. You will always remember what lies beneath those beautiful clouds, what waits in the crushing darkness, what pulses beneath the ancient rocks. This is the end of your journey. This is the final destination. This is Venus, revealed to you as it has never been revealed to anyone before. The stars surround you now, cold and distant and indifferent. The sun shines somewhere, its light illuminating half the solar system, but you do not turn toward it. You float in the darkness, held by nothing, going nowhere, simply present in this moment that contains all moments. Below you, Venus continues its slow rotation, its atmosphere racing ahead of its surface, its clouds churning in perpetual storm, its volcanoes waiting for eruptions that may never come. The planet does not know you were there. It does not care. It simply continues as it has for billions of years, as it will for billions more. But you care. And that caring gives meaning to your journey, purpose to your visit, value to your experience. You have seen what few will see, experienced what none will experience, become what no one will become. You have touched the face of Venus and felt its pulse beneath your hand. The darkness deepens as you drift further from the planet. The stars grow brighter, more numerous, filling the sky with their ancient light. Venus shrinks to a point, then to nothing, lost among the millions of other points that dot the heavens. But you know where it is. You can always find it, even when you cannot see it, even when it is hidden behind the sun or lost in the glow of the Milky Way. It is there, waiting as it has always waited, as it will always wait. You close your eyes. Not your imaginary eyes, you have been using those all along, but your real eyes, the ones in your head, the ones that have been closed since this journey began. You open them to the darkness of your room, the familiar darkness of your own space, the safe darkness that holds you every night. The ceiling is above you, invisible but known. The walls surround you, familiar and comforting. The bed holds you, soft and warm. You are home. You have always been home. The journey was in your mind, in your imagination. in the deep places where dreams and thoughts and memories mingle. But it was real. It was as real as anything in your life, as real as the love you feel for those close to you, as real as the work you do, as real as the breath in your lungs. The experiences you had on Venus will stay with you, will shape you, will become part of who you are. You will never look at that bright star in the evening sky the same way again. You will never forget what lies beneath those beautiful clouds. The pulse returns, faint but unmistakable. Not the pulse of Venus this time, but your own pulse, the rhythm of your own heart beating in your chest. It matches the memory of the mountain's pulse, syncs with it, becomes one with it. You carry Venus within you now as surely as you carry your own history, your own memories, your own self. This is the final gift of the journey, not escape but integration, not distance but connection, not forgetting but remembering. You have visited a world that no human will ever visit, experienced conditions that no human will ever experience, and returned to tell the tale. The tale is yours now, to keep, to share, to remember. The night deepens around you. The hour is late or early depending on how you measure such things. Sleep waits, patient and gentle, ready to take you when you are ready to go. But you are not quite ready. You linger for a moment longer, savoring the last traces of your journey, the final echoes of the world you have left behind. Venus is out there, somewhere in the darkness, circling the sun in its slow, eternal dance. The clouds still churn, the lightning still flickers, the storm still rages. The metallic snow still falls on the highest peaks. The acid rain still evaporates before it reaches the ground. The pulse still beats beneath the ancient rocks. All of it continues as it has for billions of years, as it will for billions more. And you continue too. You continue in your own life, your own world, your own time. But you are different now. You have been changed by what you have seen, transformed by what you have experienced. Venus is part of you, as permanent as any memory, as real as any feeling, as true as any truth you have ever known. The pulse slows. The darkness softens. Sleep approaches, gentle and inevitable. You welcome it as you have welcomed everything on this journey. You let it take you as you let Venus take you. You surrender to it as you surrendered to the crushing pressure and the searing heat and the absolute darkness. This is the final destination. Not Venus, but this. The quiet moment between waking and sleeping, the soft space where dreams begin and end, the gentle darkness that holds you every night. You have traveled to the edge of the solar system and back, and you have found, in the end, that home is where you have always been. Sleep now. The journey is over. The memories remain. Venus waits, as it will always wait, for anyone brave enough to imagine it, anyone curious enough to explore it, anyone open enough to receive its terrible gifts. You have been that person. You have done that thing. You have gone where no one can go and returned to tell the tale. Rest now. The night is yours. The darkness is yours. The peace is yours. This is Venus. This is the eternal night. This is the end of your journey and the beginning of whatever comes next. Sleep.